So these is the three types of neurons: multipolar, pseudo-unipolar, and bipolar. Bipolar means this is the soma of the neuron. Two processes come off the cell body, off the soma. This one will give rise to dendrites, and the other end axons. Pseudo-unipolar, only one process, and that will split to become dendrites and axons. Axon here, and whatever that nerve innervates would be here, the target. Multipolar has many processes coming off the soma. These are all the dendrites and a single axon. So you will find multipolars motor neurons, the ones that carry out some action, the ones that leave the anterior and side of the spinal cord via the anterior root. Pseudo-unipolar are sensory. They are the ones that sense information, okay, and they send that information to the brain, to the spinal cord and brain. So they would be coming through the posterior root, sensory. And bipolar, you can find those in the retina of the eye and also in the nose, the olfactory nerves. We will only focus on these two. So now you can see that because this one has lots of these triangular shapes, and this one no missile body, so it's the axon hillock, you know that there are dendrites here, many dendrites. So if there's more than one process coming off the cell body, you know it cannot be sensory, because sensory only has a single process coming off of it. So this is a multipolar. Okay, you will have an axon hillock and dendrites coming off from these guys. A sensory only has a single process coming off of it, so it appears circular in shape, because the way they cut the tissue to obtain these neurons, it's difficult to obtain that axon hillock with the cell body, because there's only a single process coming off of these guys, the sensory neurons. Whereas in multipolars, like motor neurons, many processes come off, so it's easy to obtain a section of at least one of these neurons containing the axon hillock. So the sensory will usually be rounded, and they will be surrounded by these cells called satellite cells. The motors also have those satellite cells. So going back to the spinal cord, the white matter consists only of axons, these structures here. The gray matter, the soma, collection of the soma. Okay, and you can have dendrites in here as well. And all sensory neurons will come through the posterior root, and the motor neurons, which are multipolar, will leave through the anterior root. The sensory neurons that are coming through the posterior root are pseudo-unipolar. The ones leaving the anterior root are multipolar. Okay, so that's that. And also, one more thing to mention is that the axon of the neurons can be like this, bare, nothing on it, or it can be myelinated. And myelinated means it contains something called myelin, okay? And myelin is like a sheath, okay, like that, like so, that wraps around them, not the entire length, but leaves some gaps like this, and then another one continues the remaining, and then if it's long, you can imagine there's another one and then another, but there's these gaps left in between them, and these are called nodes of Ranvier. Okay, Ranvier. The purpose of these myelin sheaths is that they insulate the axon, thus preventing the impulse that runs through the axon, from the axon hillock all the way down to the axon terminals. It prevents that impulse from weakening as it travels, and weakening means that the impulse leaks out, because the impulse is really formed by ions moving in and out, and as the impulse travels, ions do leak out, and that weakens the impulse. So this myelin sheath kind of insulates the axon to prevent that leakage, thus ensuring that the impulse stays strong all the way until the axon terminals. And we won't go into detail about the nodes of Ranvier at this moment.